Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of the Wspr Podghast. My name is Sean. I'm going to be your host this evening.
And I'm Maxine.
So, today we're going to go over a location that we did in 2022 called Lapwing Lodge, which is situated in the Braes in Paisley. It was built in 1910 by J&P Coates as a tuberculosis hospital for the mill workers. The hospital went through changes into the hands of the NHS and then eventually was purchased by the Scouts Association and has been run by the Scouts Association since the 70s. Lapwing Lodge has a good couple of sort of ghost story haunting reports, which you can actually see on plaques on the wall in the lodge. So this is something that the Scouts are very aware of and are happy for people to know that the place is haunted. There's reports of a woman in grey, which is kind of a typical haunting experience, I think, for most locations.
Not from many that we've been at, though, actually.
Yeah, I mean...
For the places we go, Lady in Grey isn't as common.
Yeah. Maybe more common around here because the other place that we did recently has a lady in grey as well.
Yeah.
It has reports of a woman in the woods as well. And quite often there's stories of kids being heard in the location. I remember a story from one of the caretakers, and he said that when the Scoutmasters had visited, because originally Lapwing Lodge was only used in the summer by the Scouts, the Scoutmasters had said, oh, it was really nice to see that the kids were up using the lodge on that day, and the caretaker was like, what kids?
Yeah.
It's not open for the Scouts until the summer. Interesting the fact that the caretaker was, was able to like give some information on that.
Was one of the stories not that someone got shot?
Yeah. And I actually found documentation on it because when you hear stories like this, you kind of think this is just...
It's going to be
it's got to be a story, not real. But I actually found the newspaper clippings.
Yeah.
So for anyone who watches this, we released our first episode for Lapwing Lodge on the 4th of October on YouTube over at West Scotland Paranormal Research. I think you'll find it as WSPR Scotland, but you'll find it with the same thing. The episode's called Songs of Lapwing Lodge. To dig up the historical information on Lapwing Lodge, I went to Mill End in Seattle, where there is a place called the Heritage Centre, which is run by One Wren. And it's a really crazy place because they've got like 300 years worth of newspaper clippings and all sorts of stuff on Paisley. And I managed to actually find, through doing all my research, the story about the shooting at Lapwing Lodge. And the story went along the lines of there was a sister, because it was originally like, back when...
It was religious.
When it was, religious
churches
healthcare, essentially, they were heavily involved. And somebody... took it was a police officer actually. So the story goes, a police officer, this was back before guns were banned in the UK, had helped a guy get access to a double barrel shotgun, and it was a hunting rifle, and the cop eventually, through knowing the guy, was like, listen, I can dog you in about this, because you shouldn't have this rifle. So took the rifle off of him and told him, listen, I'll dispose of it, but he didn't. He kept it. He went up to Lapwing Lodge because I'm pretty sure it was something to do with, I think it might have been his future wife, and he tried to shoot her through one of the windows at the back of the property. So when you hear stories like that, you think, nah, this is too fanciful, like in Scotland.
And to be fair, normally when we hear stories like that and we go looking for the information, it's not there.
Yeah.
Like quite a lot of time it's not there. So the fact that they actually had this one in the newspaper was quite shocking.
Yeah, exactly. You're actually able to then confirm the story and go, okay, people are actually telling the truth about that story.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of the newspaper articles as well cover the hauntings of Lapwing Lodge. There's a really cool guy, I think his name was Derek Parker, who used to write stories in Renfrewshire, and he has books on old Renfrewshire hauntings, and he covered a lot of the stories of Lapwing Lodge. So Lapwing Lodge, we've done it a good couple of times now, and it's a favourite. When we go into do the investigation, and we have to get everything set up. We tend to use a lot of audio and video equipment. So it takes quite a while to set up as part of, you know,
We also have a continuously running CCTV unit
yeah.
that
So
we've now started streaming from.
yeah, live streaming pretty much every single event. So that cuts into a good like hours worth of time.
Setting all that up.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a full CCTV system, which means you've got to run cables throughout the whole building because they also have audio. So the way we usually start an investigation is, you know, we'll do a health and safety walkthrough, which is quite important because, you know, you're dealing with like insurances, and, you know, you need to make sure you're covered when it comes to things like health and safety. You know, you're going around in a building in the pitch black, you can't see anything. I mean, you're lucky if a building has emergency lighting for fire exits and stuff like that. So we usually have to start with doing something like that, and then we'll sort of break down the investigation at night, where teams are going to go, get everybody set up.
Find the hot spots usually for where we want to put the cameras.
Yeah. Get everybody set up, and then we'll usually separate into teams and send everybody off. With Lapwing Lodge, the building is I can't remember the way that it's described, but it's the best way to describe it is a sort of V-shaped building. There's two wings, because when it was a tuberculosis hospital, it was designed so that it could be an open air house where they could open all the windows and basically just leave the patients in the corridor, because they realised one of the best cures for tuberculosis was fresh air.
Yeah.
And especially back in the day where Paisley would have been absolutely congested with pollutants from the mills
smog.
and the smog, it's, you know, it must have been heaven sitting up in a lodge in the middle of the braes with nature around you and a lake at the back where you could go swimming and actually, you know, recover. So usually we'll send teams to different wings of the building so that you can kind of cut out the contamination, and you're not going to have people picking up audio from other teams. You know, you do your best to keep everything as quiet as possible throughout the investigation. So today, as part of the episode that just released on YouTube, we thought it would be a good idea from now on to do podcasts, or the Podghast. And we're going to go over some of the clips for this one. Hopefully when people watch it on YouTube, they'll kind of pick out their own pieces of evidence. We decided, rather than doing the video where we just put the evidence out there for everybody to see straight away, it'd be a better idea to let the community actually watch the episode and review it themselves, because there's a chance there's going to be things in there that we never picked up on when we did the evidence review. It's happened a bunch of times where we've re-reviewed something and went, hold on a minute, that's not been marked. And
Or someone else has listened and went, hey, what's that?
and you're like, oh, yeah, it's good having different ears. So today we're going to go over the evidence that we have found for Lapwing Lodge, and we'll just put it up on screen, let you guys see it, and we can discuss it. So this is the first clip. In this room, there's myself with a camera. We have on the right, Mirren. Behind Mirren is Carla, and then we have Zara, and we have Maxine. Everybody's quiet in this room, and again, for context, this is complete opposite end of the building from where the other teams are working. And if you Google Lapwing Lodge, the place is massive. It's so you're doing your best to try and minimize any sort of noise contamination. And Lapwing Lodge, as far as I remember, is about probably 2 or 3 miles away from the actual car park up the Braes. There's nothing around it. It's completely surrounded by woodland, so
it's got a long driveway in, so it's not like you're going to hear things from the main road either.
So in this clip at the beginning, it sounds like there's a voice that comes in, and again, it's a completely quiet room. No one's making any noise. As a team, we do our best so that if there's any sort of noise contamination from us, even if it's just a stomach rumble, we will call it out, because quite often you'll find that when people review things, you'll hear noises, and if someone hasn't called it out, you then have to go through the whole case of trying to debunk and figure out what the noise was. So we'll play the first clip and we'll see what you guys think. So we'll replay it once more. It's right there. What do you think? I mean, it's clear none of us are aware of what's that in the room. I don't know what it's saying. It's quite low.
So now would probably be a good time to discuss the quality and how you you grade different types of EVP.
Traditionally, when it comes to ghost hunting, there's Class A, Class B, and Class C EVPs. Class C EVPs, I would say, are probably, I mean, this is on my perspective, like, I could try and use what other teams would consider. I would say Class C is something audible, doesn't sound human, probably, that you can't really clarify what it is, but at that time there wasn't anyone creating any noise. There's no reason for that noise to happen. I say Class B is probably, it sounds vocal, sounds like someone speaking, but you cannot make it out, and then you've got
multiple different people who claim it's something else,
something different,
and you can't agree.
Which we're going to go over at the end of this evidence section, because I brought a clip that, as a team, we've been arguing about for the last 6 years, and we still cannot.
So maybe you guys can help us. Finally decide which it is.
So, and then Class A is, it's audible. You can hear what the person's saying, but you know for a fact there wasn't anyone in the group.
Yeah. So what would you rate?
I say it's a B, just because it's something to me that sounds vocal. It sounds like someone speaking.
See, to me, I hear this sort of thing at the start, but it's more of the mumble after that I would say is something.
Yeah.
But again, I can't work out what it's saying.
Maybe you guys will have caught it in the episode. Who knows? By the time anyone makes a comment, we'll be able to review it and see if anybody else heard it. We'll go on to the second clip now. So, in this segment here, we're in one of the halls in Lapwing Lodge. We're basically doing a question and answer session. Mags, who's sitting in a chair on the camera. I'm in the room joined by Carla, who's off to the left by the door, and it's myself in the other corner. Basically, we're using a Tascam audio recorder, which is really high quality, to try and basically just do an answer and question, see if we get any kind of responses. In this place, it seemed to be, in this room specifically, we constantly were getting bumps in response to what we were asking. So I haven't cut this to include the questions, because when you watch it, you'll find this segment in the video. But the bump wasn't done by any of us. In the next clip that we'll play, it's the clarification of us double checking if anyone made the noise. So we'll play it one more time. And then we'll move on to the next clip, which will be I'm pretty certain this is the next clip, is when we just clarify and we ask the question if anybody made the noise in the room.
Bangs.
Did one of you just bump?
No, not me.
Before you asked the question? I didn't move.
I thought it was you, because it came through your direction.
Yeah, I didn't move.
Bangs is quite a common response that you get. It's not very common you're going to get an EVP of something going I'm here. Bangs is, I would say, probably when we're out investigating, one of the more
common kind of responses.
But that's also, it's because our team knows feet flat on the floor, things like that normally.
If you're making any adjustments, making any movements that's going to make noise,
you call it out.
You clarify it, you call it out, because
and if what you're doing there, you'll then ask to check to make sure.
Because if Mags is sitting there on the audio recorder and they're really, really powerful, they pick up noise from a distance. If she hears a creak or a bump when she's asking a question could you make a noise, give us a sign, any of the typical kind of questions, it's going to be confusing. It's going to then leave her going, oh, there was something there. But then you find out it was a team member. Even if it's just adjusting in a seat, you have to make sure that you call it out. As you can see here, Mags...
And the team is quite experienced at this point.
We've been doing this for a decade.
Together so it's not like you've got new people who are regularly going to be fidgeting and stuff in their chair.
Majority of the team have been... We founded in 2016. But a lot of the team members have been from other groups and then have ran other teams in the past. Some of us have been ghost hunting since the early 2000s.
Speaking of
so
adjusting, I actually need to.
Oh,
There we go.
I'm the same. Whenever I'm sitting in a seat, I'm always like trying to fix myself. But yeah, so as you can hear here, Mags thinks the audio came from my side with the Taz cam. I clearly at this point called it out and was like, yeah, I could tell that it was from where I was sitting, but I'm not moving. I'm completely stationary, doing my best to make sure with a handy cam that I'm getting a clear shot. So we can play it one more time.
Did one of you just bump?
Nope, not me.
Like before you asked the question? I didn't move.
I thought it was you because it came from your direction.
Yeah, I didn't move.
I think the next two clips coming up are again bump responses. So we can check.
Side camera this time. What was that? That was a noise beside me. Oh, great, thank you.
So in this one, Mags asked the question like, instead, like, can you make a bump this time next to Carla? And audibly you can hear, at least from, obviously I'm turning the camera to film and just check if anything, like to make sure that Carla is on camera for this moment in case anything happens. And Carla clarifies that she heard something from her side, and it was again bang on the spot of someone going, can you do this at this location? And it happened again.
And that's something we would usually then describe as intelligent, because it's doing what you're asking.
Yeah, it's not just a random bumper creak in the middle of somewhere. It's on point. And one of the things I'll say, we did a couple of investigation kind of pieces in this spot, and it doesn't happen throughout the night.
Yeah, it's
it
not like a
happens
common.
only in these kind of moments here where we're asking for these responses. We'll play it one more time and then we'll move on.
Side camera this time. What was that? That was a noise beside me. Oh, great, thank you.
So you can hear the noise under a little bit underneath the audio because there's a second kind of click, but that second click is just me using the viewfinder and adjusting the zoom. Because on the camera I've got the microphone is on the top next to where that is. So we'll move on to the next clip, which I'm pretty certain again is another bump response in the same spot.
This time, can you make a noise beside me? There's other wee noises beside me. Yeah, I heard other wee noises there.
Unfortunately for this one, I don't think it's pick upable on the camera, but it was most likely picked up on the Taz cam. But this investigation was done in like 2022, still in the middle of COVID, when all of the sort of restrictions were dying down. So people were then allowed again to go back out and do things and do rent locations, because Lapwing Lodge, even as a place, basically closed throughout COVID. So unfortunately, I don't think you can hear it on the camera with this one, but we've got two different investigators in two separate locations of the room, confirming that they're both hearing the audio in the sort of range of where Carla is. I don't really see the point in playing this one again. It was just more of a clarification one.
Yeah, no.
Check what the next clip is.
This time, can you make a noise beside me?
So I think I just kind of did this one. I'm not sure if there's another clip coming up where there is a response, but this was just showing the sort of investigation technique of us going, right, let's try and get this to happen in different spots in the room, because if you're constantly getting the noise in the one area.
And you can't just take one bang, one knock, because we know Lapwing better than most of the other places we're going to, but buildings do make noises.
Yeah.
They do creak, they do bang. So if you can get it to happen on request.
Yeah, and in the vicinity of the spot you're asking.
And you can ask it to change, you're more likely to go, right, okay, well, maybe this is
possibly something intelligent rather than it just being... yeah, exactly. I think it's good for sort of providing evidence to what we do, that there's a lot of effort placed on making sure that we can have different experience happening in a similar location, so that there's then no benefit of the doubt when it comes to it, and
Yeah.
people aren't going to think, oh well, you know, like you said, buildings settling, things are made of wood creaks, yada yada yada. So it was, and you can hear the audible difference because the one that happened next to me
Was a
quite
lot
loud,
louder.
and then there's sort of more faint ones, and then you have two different investigators, one who's just listening by ear, one who's listening by a Tascam, and they're both hearing the same thing.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next clip. So yeah, I don't know if I put the clarification in after this one, but I think Mags at some point goes, did one of you guys just like bump twice? And that one's really loud.
Yeah.
And at this point, we're joined by Tomac, who is one of our team members. And he's quite a skeptic. He hasn't had really any big experiences that's made him really feel like there's anything on investigations, but he still goes. You know, for him, it's about proving his disbelief or maybe providing answers on another way, and he'll then gain a belief in it. But every single one of us clarified and like, no, nobody moved, none of us made any noise. Tomac, the only thing he's holding is it's a laser grid pen, so it's kind of like a little flashlight. You just click click, but that noise there is
It's not flashlight.
really bassy, really audible, really loud. Sort of sounds like I mean like someone like really adjusting in a chair maybe or something like that. But we'll play it one more time just so people can. Yeah. We'll play the next clip because I think possibly there might be just a wee bit of us talking about that experience. I might not have included it though, but we'll see. Okay, so in this clip, part of the reason why I included these ones, I didn't do the clarification on the double one because I just genuinely felt like there was no point.
Yeah.
There is in the episode when you watch it though, us discussing the fact that we heard that noise and it's quite loud. This is the same room, just from a different perspective now. So I was sitting on the right hand side. This camera's kind of near where Carla was sitting, and Mags was on the left. This is me here on the left, kind of sort of out of frame. We're doing a thing called the Estes session, essentially, where you wear a spirit box. It taps into radio frequencies. The way that it's described as working when it comes to paranormal research is that it scans radio frequencies so quickly that you shouldn't be able to get concrete long sentences as responses.
The way I like to describe it is like, think of Herbie or like Bumblebee from Transformers, the way it uses the radio
to try and communicate. Yeah. And what we're doing is I'm wearing essentially noise cancelling headphones. I can't hear anybody because I'm just constantly hearing white noise static and then occasionally blurps coming in through the radio. I've also blindfolded so that I can't see anyone's lips moving. I can't hear any of the questions. And people will ask questions, and if I hear a response on the radio, all I'm doing is just shouting out whatever I hear. And quite often we're finding now that we're getting these really weirdly concrete responses, like to the point it's creepy.
Yeah. Some of them have been quite weird.
But here, there's sound. It sounds like people talking in the building. And it happens quite a lot in this session, to the point that at some point in the episode, team members do go, it sounds like people are talking in the building.
And then there's people, like, we go and check, don't we? Like,
At
there's
one
even
point,
people
we
that
even
go and
thought it
check
sounded,
outside.
yeah, we thought that there was people talking outside in the woods. And like I said, Lapwing Lodge is completely surrounded by woodlands, and then there's a lake at the back. This is a good couple of miles up the braes. There's no parking near it.
Yeah.
And we are not scared to run outside and start going, is there anybody out here, and actually go through the woods. So on this specific evening, we'd done this before. Me and Robert went all the way out the back into the woodlands, essentially.
To double check
If there was anything. And it's dead silent. There's nobody out there. But just at this part of the evening, we just constantly kept hearing people talking in the building, and there's nobody else there. All the team members are all located in this one room.
Yep. And everybody's being silent other than the person asking questions. Like,
yeah, and at this moment, obviously, there's no one asking a question because I'm only cutting that specific bit. When you're watching the episode, clear as day, be able to hear team members asking questions like, you know, what's your name? And then just in this moment, it sounds like people are talking in the background. So we'll play it one more time. It's right there. In the next clip, which we'll play, I'm certain it's just another case of what sounds like people talking about. It literally got to the point where team members literally all got off their seats and went, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
And we pulled the curtains open in the room and we're looking out the window.
Because it's not that common that everybody in the room is all hearing something like that. Like normally if we're out in an investigation, it's maybe one or two people have an experience where they're like, "Oh, we heard something."
Yeah.
Whereas we are all sat there and everybody's going, "Who the heck is talking?"
Yeah, 'cause
like you're ruining it.
The entire team is located in this room.
Yeah. Because I think some people actually started getting a bit cross, thinking there was people outside.
Which is why we went outside. Obviously, if there's people outside, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, we can go out and politely go like, "Hey, we're doing this. Would you like guys maybe?"
And funnily enough, you'll quite often get people be like, "That's really cool." Like they're like, "Can we come in?" And it's like, you can't, because unfortunately we have to pay insurances and we don't deal with members of the public. It's all private. But we'll play the next clip, clip number 9, because it's just, again, it's audible talking that we can all hear in this room. And like I said, it got to the point where eventually we all just started getting up. I've not included it in these clips. It's in the episode, but we just get up because we're like, right, what's going on?
Yeah, need to check it out.
We have to go and check this out. So if we could do clip 9.
Are you happy? I want to know more about the torture and tool shed.
Patient.
That's the clearest, that one.
Yeah. It's quite long. There's like it sounds like it's split, but it's like someone having a full on conversation. And even at one point, I noticed in the clips, I didn't include it in the clips because I was like, I wouldn't really say it's like an evidence piece, but Mags was like hearing noises coming out for the kitchen area, which is right through the door behind us. And it got to the point where people were like, nah, we all have to get up off the seats now and go have a look at what's going on. I think there is a clip 10 as well that we have to review. Just double check what we've got.
Thomas? You talking to me?
So our team member's name is Tomak. He's Polish, but Tomak is the Polish name for Thomas. And I remember now because what we usually do with an Estes session is when the person asks the questions, they'll write them down. Yeah. And then if there's a response from the person with a headset, they'll then write that response down. So we can keep a log of it. And then, and what ended up happening in this building was I then found out from Tomac later on, he was like, oh, when I did the Estes session, someone said my name and said Thomas to me. And I was like, okay, that's kind of funny because in the second session, we got the same name coming through.
You're getting it twice.
And
at two separate occasions.
Exactly. And I wasn't aware of this at all because when we do these Estes sessions, we usually do them in small teams. We don't then speak to the next team and go, this is what we got.
Because you don't want to accidentally like lead each other and things like that. Like it's sort of intentional that we don't share what we're getting till the end of the night.
Because you don't want someone then, I can't remember, it's like Para something, I can't remember the name of it, but they're going to be then listening to all this white noise and their brain's going to be ticking going, oh, well, they got Thomas, they got this, they got that, and suddenly they're going to hear it. So, yeah, that was... We'll play it one more time. I mean, it's just...
Thomas? You talking to me?
And like, you can kind of see at that point my hand gesture, I'm like, Thomas? Like, that was odd.
Yeah.
Because I got a couple of names in the session, and when I went back and then did the check with the Estes sessions of the other ones, there was a bunch of names that came through that had already been come through with other teams, and I was like, this was the kind of first time when I did the Estes, I went, okay, that's weird. Because we'd never done the Estes session before. We'd always done spirit boxes without the headphones and make sure that people couldn't hear the questions. It was always just, you ask the question, you listen for a response, but doing it this way, it kind of adds a little bit more evidence to if someone asks a question like, you know...
And you can't hear the question. Like,
what's your name? And it goes, John such and such, when
Yeah.
did you die? And it gives you an exact date, and then suddenly you go and do research on the building and you find out this person died on that day, because we usually do our best to not our best. We don't check information before we go to a location. Like sometimes you'll get a walkthrough with people
And
and they'll
give you
a little historical
histories.
tour, but we are at the point where we just go, can you give us an edited version of your tour with no names, no dates, no
Because
information?
like if you go in somewhere and they're like, for instance, so David died here. Again, people can sometimes put that in their own head that they're then hearing, oh, I heard someone say David, whereas if you don't know any of that and you're then getting that evidence, there's a bit more legitimacy to it.
So all of the episodes that we have done, the historical sections are researched after the
end,
investigation, not before. So the next clip, I think there's no more clips if I'm right, is one called, I think it's Lapwing Singing. This is the one that we have all argued about for the last 6 years. Before we play it, what we'll do is we'll play it one time and then we'll describe what the actual argument is with the team member. So if we could play the Lapwing Singing clip. So, yeah. This was filmed in an investigation years ago at Lapwing, because we do Lapwing quite a lot, like regularly. We'll probably do it once a year. It's in Paisley, easy for us to access. This one was filmed in the similar, it was actually filmed in the room that in the first clip where we were all sitting and you hear that voice, but this is again a different year. We set a Tascam recorder up and left it in that room, and quite often we don't really do that now because
leaving them running for a really long time is hard to review when you've also got all the cameras to review.
And then on top of that, it's like if something happened, like there was a bang nearby because someone did end up being near that space, you're not going to be able to debunk that. It's just the difference is with this one is we don't have any children in the team. None. So
this is also filmed like it's in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night again.
Like we
nothing
investigate and like at the late hours.
All our mobile phones are switched to airplane mode because we don't want to muck up any equipment.
We do that at the start of every investigation.
And the argument that's been going on in the team is some people think it's kids singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Whereas for me, I don't hear Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Maxine hears Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Don't get me wrong, I think for me it sounds like a kid not singing exactly the right words and kind of obviously like a wee bit pitchy.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're saying exactly that, but to me it sounds like someone attempting to sing Twinkle Twinkle.
Yeah. We actually have a new team member who, when he reviewed this, was so certain that it was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
My side.
Live on TikTok, and then he brought his missus into the room and was like, "Can you listen to this?" And she was just like, "How on earth are you hearing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star?" And he's like, "How can you know here Twinkle Twinkle Little Star?"
Some people listen to that and they don't hear they don't think it's like intelligible at all.
Yeah.
Like everybody has different opinions on this.
We tried going through
old lullabies.
Like old lullabies, trying to find Scottish lullabies
Gaelic
done to the
as well.
tune.
We even looked at Gaelic ones to try and find.
Just because some of us think it's I Love My Little Teddy that it's saying. So we were like, right, try and find a nursery rhyme that has something to do with teddies. Cannot find it. So we'll just play it one more time and then you guys can make the decision and comment in and tell us what you think.
See, for me, that's always been the creepiest bit of evidence that's ever been caught, because it's just there is no children anywhere near us.
Nope.
And like the way it just sort of trails off as well, like, you don't get a full song. Like, that's always been the scariest one for me. It just starts. Like, we've not cut away anything at the beginning or the end. Like, it's literally just that line,
and it does sound 100% like kids singing. The problem is like I can't say it's an A. It's like an A-B because you can tell it's definitely sounds like kids singing. But the problem is we have no idea what they're singing.
Yeah.
We have so many people that have came in and went, I think it's this, and you're like, I don't hear that. To the point that we were joking, going, it's that dress thing all over again. Is it the gold dress or is it a blue dress or the green needle thing?
So it's up to the viewers to end this 6-year long
debate on what that piece of evidence is. Yeah,
and then we can put it to bed.
Okay. For conclusion of that investigation, I think we could say, not even with that investigation, just with the experiences we've had in Lapwing, in my opinion, it's definitely haunted. What do you think?
I would say there's definitely something there.
Like, whether or not I'm a believer in the paranormal or not, because I'm quite skeptical still, and I still, even though I can tell experiences and things have happened to me, still that biased, rational part of my brain.
It's easier to believe in the moment, isn't it? And then as soon as you leave and you go home, you start trying to...
Did that happen? Was it that? Lapwing is one of the places that I will say that we, every single time we go, concretely something happen. Because actually in that episode, and it's a piece I just realised, I didn't mark it down, but the caretaker in Lapwing has a dog.
Yeah.
And at one of the investigations, one of our team members had just had surgery, so they wanted to relax in the lounge. So they relaxed in the lounge with their partner and basically sat watching the CCTV.
Which is what we call base camp.
Yeah, base camp. The entire team went out into the woods at the back, which is a good, you're talking 5-minute walk even just to get into the actual woods. When we come back, they're just like, we were sat in here and there's just just sounds like in the corridor, a cat meowing at us. Yeah. And then, funny enough, when I rewatched that episode, at the beginning, there's a moment where the team are just walking through the corridor, and at one point you kind of just look up, having a look, and again, you just hear this cat meowing. Now, don't get me wrong, it's up the braes, there could be cats, but I mean,
the building.
Yeah.
It'd be different if you had that outside.
And it's
I would say yes,
enough.
probably.
It's audible enough that you would think someone would have went, did you guys just hear a cat?
Yeah.
But no one hears it. And that's the difference between an EVP and an audible experience. EVP is an electronic voice phenomena where it's basically only audible to a camera because microphones pick up completely out with the human hearing range. We can only hear up to 20,000 kilohertz, whereas camera microphones can pick up to 96,000 kilohertz.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that there was a cat. Is it a ghost cat? I don't know. Because nobody actually said that they heard the cat in that moment, but you hear it clear as day in the camera as we're walking through the corridor. But so we'll never know.
The next time we go,
we're going to be looking for a cat.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think, my opinion, it's definitely haunted for what people would look at for haunting experiences. Yeah. We haven't seen the woman in grey. We haven't seen anything with our own eyes, but consistently every single time we go, we're getting voices, we're getting animal voices, we're getting kids singing. Yeah. Scouts are visiting the place saying that they're hearing kids, even though there's no kids on location. So Lapwing Lodge has definitely got
there's
something going on for the 100-year history of the actual building. I'd asked for some Q&A questions. So I'm actually going to pull my phone out for this one because I'm going to read the questions because it makes more sense. I'm actually going to ask you, I think, to answer maybe a question or so. Okay, so how long does it take to set up equipment?
I would say it actually depends. So it depends, one, on the location, and it depends two, on who we have doing setup. So right now, because we do the live streaming, you and Smoke set that up, which means you're having to sort of reposition cameras and things like that. So it takes a wee bit longer. But I'd say, so long as we're organized, it's probably about 30 minutes.
Yeah, especially if we don't know a location, because we don't get an option to really go in beforehand and look around the place.
Exactly.
You know, TV shows get to do that kind of stuff. They're going to have the place scouted out before they go in.
Sometimes we've gone in and we've had the whole place cameraed up and sorted within 10 minutes because...
Yeah. So if there's hiccups, it might take a bit longer. How do we debunk stuff? Like I explained, we do everything we can to mitigate any possible noise contamination from us. And this was actually a proven case that happened in the team where we had done a recording at the PI, and we had a whisper that came up, and the team then started arguing, going, that's a voice saying something, and they all then came up with what it was.
Yeah.
And I was sat there going, that's one of you guys whispering.
Yeah, one of you guys.
And I was like, this
fault.
is someone whispering. And I was like, I know that's one of you guys whispering. And I was like, because it's actually saying this. And then I went, where was this filmed? And they were like, oh, it says in the audio file it was recorded in this room. And I went, oh, good thing I have a static cam set up. Went back, bang,
But
team
that's
member.
one of...
They heard footsteps and
Yeah.
literally went to go, like, can you hear that? And they did that to be like, because usually we'll do hand gestures like, you know, footsteps or talking. And it's kind of like the joke on the name of like why we have the name that we have is in working with teams in the past before we founded the team. One of the biggest problems that we found as investigators was quite a lot of people would whisper when they were hearing something
Without realising.
Well, if you're recording audio, first off, you're speaking over what you're hearing. But now when you go back and review it, because you're hours later, you might go home, you might not get up until the next
And
day
it's
to
why
review.
we're so focused on having things like the CCTV cameras and having them angled so that they can see everyone in the room, because sometimes people are going to forget that they've maybe mumbled something, or maybe they've like cleared their throat and forgot about it. And most of the time, people are very diligent at announcing it, but
We even get to the
there's
point now
always
where
the
we'll
occasional,
go,
like, we're human, there's always the occasional slip up. So if we do have something like that, the first thing you do is, what room are you in? Go back to the cameras.
Yeah.
Double check.
And we also do things like where if someone mumbles, I might just go, Maxine coughed.
Yeah.
Because you might not even realise in the moment that you did it, because you're so hyper focused on everything that's going on around you.
Yeah.
How do you organise the teams and where they go during investigations?
Oh, sorry. The other thing as well is if it's things like bangs, one of the things we'll usually do is we'll check windows.
Yeah.
And we'll check that there's not like a tree outside that's just occasionally tapping. Like,
yeah.
Those are the because obviously that was more for like whispers and stuff. But when it's more things like bumps and bangs, we'll check things like chairs, make sure they're not like wonky, just because. Simple things like that can sometimes be. You guys worked out one time that it was like flushing toilets were making...
It was actually the PI, One of the reports was that people were constantly hearing toilets flushing or something like that from one of the floors, but then when we went up, we went, no, actually, it's the toilet on the bottom floor, but
It's
audibly,
just
it sounds like it's coming
it's
from the top
carrying,
floor because the way the audio in the building just reverberates. And the actual caretaker at the time was like, oh, he's like, that's actually cool. He's like, that makes sense. He's like, because I've had so many teams come in and they're just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do we organize the teams? You know, I don't know.
So usually if it's a new person, they'll be paired up with someone
more experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good way to then kind of gauge where someone's at, because some people might come in and just like naturally be good at it. Like our friend that just joined the team in May, he came out and, you know, I wasn't expecting him to be like on the ball with it, and he literally was just stood there like
asking his own questions as well, though.
Yeah, he was explaining, I don't really believe in this stuff, but I'm willing to try and communicate, and he just rolled with it to the point that me and you basically just filmed him.
We just
for the investigation, and we were like, this is great. Like you're asking all the right questions, you're not repeating questions.
We usually try and mix it up as well. Don't be wrong, people will tend to sort of float to who they gel with, I think, but we try and make sure everybody gets like mixed up a bit.
What got you into the paranormal? For me, it's my love of horror. My Halloween t-shirt wearing my Freddy Krueger's. I love horror. I've always loved horror. Maxine knows, she's my girlfriend, and I just every time we're watching a movie, I'm like, horror movie?
Yeah.
What if I find a new horror
Always
movie?
pick a horror movie.
They're just predictable, they're fun. I'd watched ghost hunting programs when I was younger. I was really into it. But then through actually investigating myself, I was like, right, a lot of stuff is definitely explainable and debunkable. I mean, even recently when I've been watching, I watch Jason Hawes, who runs Ghost Hunters, and he does a lot of his own like now YouTube videos where he just goes out to buildings and it's not for TV. And even he said,
because they do derelicts and stuff
as
as
well,
don't they?
85% of the cases that they've ever done, even under Ghost Hunters, he's like, it's explainable. It's just something explainable, and people get freaked out at it. And for me, I just it's also the history of it. I love going into historical locations. You're basically getting your own mini private tour at night time. You can go around these locations. You're booking them and having to spend money.
Yeah.
But it's great. And also...
And most of the buildings are beautiful.
Yeah,
like, they are.
And the
They're
places
lovely.
that we've been are just absolutely phenomenal that you probably wouldn't get access to at that kind of personal level on a public during the day tour.
Yep.
What's your favorite piece of equipment? My 4K camera.
Yeah.
I love it. My Sony HDR FX 55, I think it is. Yeah, ADR, whatever.
I'm curious. I'm going to say for people in the comments, if you know what got you into paranormal.
Yeah.
Like, what was it that got? Because every single team member in our group has an entirely different story or reason as to why they're involved.
Some of them, it's they don't believe.
Yeah, some of them are like they're stark. I do not believe in this, and I'm out here to try and like disprove everything.
How do you determine locations are good for investigations? Sometimes someone will just go, "I've seen something and read something that this place might be haunted. Can we check it out?" And just basically, they'll say that they want to check the place out, and then I just basically pop an email and go, "Hey, can we visit the place? We're fully insured, yada yada." And then you get a response back. I mean, the cool thing is one of the episodes is going to air November 1st, or it's Halloween. It might be Halloween. The episode's running. Is a place that we've done called Kuris Palace, and we're one of the only teams who've ever actually covered the place. Very lucky. And we just now have a fantastic relationship with the curator that we are getting to return.
Too, though. She's lovely too.
Linda. We are going to get a return to the place, and it's just that's it. You just ask, you know.
Yep.
Check Google. Sometimes you'll see a newspaper going, "Oh, this new location's opened up." Staff are reporting things. Sometimes we get businesses coming in and going, "Hey, there's weird stuff happening." We had one location, I won't talk about it because we never got to actually do it. The staff member eventually moved to another job, but their report was all of the chefs were consistently experiencing stuff at nighttime. The building used to be a bank in Glasgow, and they were just like, "This is weird. You guys need to come in and check this place out because the chefs are basically all terrified at nighttime." And we've eaten in the place during the day, and you just wouldn't think. But for them, they're like, "Nope, closing up." Horrible
but that's
experience.
the thing. They're there every single day.
Yeah.
So you're more likely to start noticing weird things when you're in the building all the time.
Exactly. The last one was just how long does it take to review? I mean, like, look, we film 6 to 8 hours on a handy cam, but now we also have our static cams running, and we have 3 of them. So they'll have 2, 3, 4 hours of footage once the batteries die. We also have all the audio recorders, and then now we're doing these live streams. But the good thing is you can kind of just watch the live streams back as a live stream, and just have the public come in and watch. And we're not really using the CCTV cameras as evidence. We're using them as, like you said, to debunk if we make a mistake. But secondly, it's also just fun
evidence to double check,
and it's fun for people to watch. So that's kind of how we do that. It does take a while. I mean, I've spent most of the winter trying to then edit all the videos. It takes a very long time. So if you want to do ghost hunting, if you want to actually create evidence and content, be prepared for the review because it takes a while. Because quite a lot of the evidence you'll get is audio that you can't hear with your ear.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd do a quick wee shout out for the team. Because I thought that'd be a nice way to like wrap up the episode is do a wee shout out. There's myself, Sean, there's Maxine. We have Mags, we have Zara, we have Kirsty, we have Carla, Stuart, Robert, Tomac, Caroline. Oh God, there's so many team members. Richard, Mirren, Kirsty. If I've forgotten anyone, Jamie, Fraser. Yep. See, when I said it's a big team. It's a very big team. We traditionally usually have about 20 members. Amanda as well.
So you could have just looked at the list.
I know, I should have just brought their names up on Facebook. There you go. At least I remember.
Doing it that way.
My brain is so foggy today. So I just thought as well, like social media links. We do have a link tree. All of our social media is basically just West Scotland Paranormal Research. You'll find us on pretty much every single platform under that name. We're on TikTok under the exact same thing. Yep. Video schedule for release. The first episode aired on the 4th of October. The next episode airs 2 weeks later on the 18th, and then 2 weeks later about Halloween, and then we have an episode launching as well in November. We're also going to be doing these over the next couple of weeks for every single episode. These should air a week and a bit, maybe later, depending just on editing and when we get them released. So there's plenty of content to watch. We are live quite regularly on the weekend on TikTok. We have an investigation coming up on the 18th of this month. I won't mention the place because I don't want to chance that eventually people just start randomly showing up.
Yeah.
Because it can happen. But we'll be going live on the 18th of October at a location. And that's it for the podcast.
Hopefully you'll tune in on our live.
Yeah.
Hopefully
true.
see you there.
Hopefully you'll comment on this and ask questions. Feel free to drop any questions in, and then I can maybe answer them the next time.
Yep.
Because this is all just brand new for us, and we're just branching out into new forms of media.
Yeah.
Trying our best. But yeah, that's it for the podcast.
Thanks for watching.